Welcome, this is Najma Minhas and Mueed Pizada, editors Global Village Space. On the 23rd of February, the Prime Minister of Pakistan leaves to Russia. It will be the first visit by an elected Prime Minister of Pakistan in 23 years. This is happening, though, at a time when tensions are running high between Russia and Ukraine and the West. So many are wondering if he should be making this trip at all. Mueed, what are your thoughts?
Najma, thank you so much for letting me speak on this subject. I have been talking to government officials, diplomats, ex-diplomats. I had attended briefings on the subject in the past few days in Islamabad. And the view which I have gathered is, it's a very well systematic view that Russia and Pakistan have been developing a closer coordination and relationship for more than 10 years now. And this trip between Prime Minister, the trip to Moscow by Prime Minister Imran Khan to meet President Putin on a formal level in a bilateral thing, was in process and making for at least 2 years. There was a possibility, there was an invitation of this visit taking place in June 2020. It was planned, but then because of the rising pandemic, because of COVID, it could not take place. And subsequently, there was an SCO summit in St. Petersburg. And once again, because the COVID was there, this could not take place. So this particular trip, which now, of course, because of the Ukraine crisis, there's a lot of attention focus on it, but it has nothing to do with Ukraine as such. Even the date of this trip was decided for more than 1 month ago. So several days before the 4th February Prime Minister trip to Beijing, China Winter Olympics, the date for the bilateral visit to Russia, to Moscow, was already set. And Pakistan's goals are very bilateral.
Tensions between Russia and Ukraine were already running very high. So really, did Russia need someone to come at this point in time? So are we doing the big favor to Russia at this point?
Not exactly, because as I mentioned that Pakistan and Russia have been talking on the possibility of a bilateral visit for quite some time. Yes, at this particular moment, there are tensions that are running very high on Ukraine. We still believe that a full-fledged war on Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine will not take place. The fact that only less than 24 hours ago, the French president's office has made it very clear that the American President Biden has agreed to have a meeting with the Russian president. And from this Thursday onwards, the American White House is actually preparing for that meeting. So this gives a lot of hope that ultimately the issue in the Ukraine will be settled. But Pakistan has no clear position on the Ukraine thing. Yes, Pakistan also realizes, I understand that Pakistan realizes that Russia has genuine security concerns in view of the NATO's possible expansion to Ukraine. And Russians feel very strongly that when the US Secretary of State James Baker visited Moscow and met President Gorbachev in 1990, this was probably February of 1990, the James Baker had extended guarantees to Gorbachev that this meeting was taking place in the context of unification of Germany. And the Americans wanted that the unified Germany should stay in NATO. And in sort of a trade-off, they had agreed that NATO will not be extended to other states of the former Warsaw Pact. And Russians believe that from 1997 and 1999 onwards, United States started violating. They don't take NATO as NATO. They take NATO as basically an extension of United States. So Pakistan also understands that. But Pakistan has Pakistan is not on one or the other side in the Ukraine crisis.
So you were talking about the Russian gas pipeline deal. And when we look at this recently launched national security policy, one of the things that they keep mentioning is the geo-economics and regional connectivity as an essential part of the policy. Do you think this trip is the first tangible realization of that policy?
So the objectives of the Prime Minister's visit are very clear. I mean, Pakistan has a growing relationship of trust with Russia for the past 10 years plus. Pakistan wants to consolidate that relationship. Pakistan wants to affirm that relationship. This is one important point. Pakistan also wants to expand its diplomatic space in the area. This is another concern. Pakistan wants to have Russia's cooperation in stabilizing Afghanistan, ending Afghanistan's isolation. This is another concern. Pakistan also wants its regional connectivity in Central Asia, Russia's help. Russia is the most important influence and country vis-a-vis Central Asia. And then Pakistan is interested in Russian energy and a Russian company. This is Pak Stream Gas. has almost completed. This agreement has to be finalized, in which there will be a south-north gas pipeline that will start from somewhere in Sakha and will come up to Kasur near Lahore. And this is almost $2 billion of Russian investment. And there have been a massive discussion for the past 2.5 years on this gas pipeline thing, in which initially the gas pipeline wanted perhaps more than 15% rate on investment, which the Pakistani Energy Ministry has not agreed, and the Russians have also consented to. But one point more I wanted to basically tell you. So there's also another consideration that Pakistani Prime Minister really appreciates the position that has been taken by President Putin on the issue of Islamophobia. As we all know, the Prime Minister Imran Khan in the past 2.5 years has taken a very strong and robust position on Islamophobia. He wants to convince the Western leadership, Western media, Western think tanks that, for few radical Muslims here and there and everywhere, you should not demonize Islam. So he wants to basically gather support, and Russia being a non-Muslim country, raising its voice. And I think one of the important items on the visit will be that it will be to a mosque that has been converted from a church. And President Putin wants to show to the whole world and to the West that Russia may have problems with Muslim states and insurgents like Chechens and all, but Russia has no psychological Islamophobia within Russia the way we see Islamophobia, especially in France and other parts of Europe.
Okay. So you were talking about the Russian gas pipeline deal. And when we look at this recently launched national security policy, one of the things that they keep mentioning is the geo-economics and regional connectivity as an essential part of the policy. Do you think this trip is the first tangible realization of that policy?
Yes, it's very important. The Pakistani Foreign Office is very interested that during this visit, this gas pipeline agreement should be finalized. This can also provide a very solid foundation and ground, knowing President Putin's psychology. I have been told this not only by the Pakistani diplomats, but also by visiting Russian media delegation. I also met some of the Russian experts and business people, some related to the gas project itself. And they think that President Putin has hinted that he will visit Pakistan this year as a bilateral visit, and he would like to have something important. Even when he met President Musharraf for 4.5 hours long meeting in Moscow in 2007 or 6. So he wanted something big to happen between Pakistan and Russia. So he needs something important, and this gas line project can be an important signing occasion. But I have also heard from Russian experts, and that was very interesting, that they think it is not only because I asked them that will India permit, because India having such a close relationship, will India not exercise its veto on President Putin's visit to Islamabad? And I've been told from Russians that India is less and less in a position to exercise the veto. Yes, India is very important. India and Russia have very long-standing historic relationship. But the growing nexus between China and Russia is now also very important, because Russia faces Western sanctions, Russia faces ostracization, demonization at the hands of the Western governments and media. Apart from Germany and France, almost all European countries are actually have taken a very strong position against Russia. So to Russia, China's help, China's support in economic areas, political support is very important. And Russia sees with interest that Pakistan is a very important strategic ally with China. Russians have noted with a lot of satisfaction that Pakistan decided not to attend the Democracy Summit that was being organized by White House in the beginning of this year. And so they think that Pakistanis have shown spine. But they have also realized that Pakistan has done this thing because the Democracy Summit was in a way against China, and perhaps Taiwan was being invited. So Pakistan has taken the decision of defying the American invitation because of its close relationship with China. And also I have heard from Russian analysts that Beijing has been telling Moscow that Pakistan is important. So whereas this is not an alliance of three countries at all, but this is sort of a growing understanding. And Russia values Pakistan more because of Pakistan's relationship with China.
Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned that it's not an alliance, because we know that China, for example, is very much against this whole concept of building blocks. But the fact of the matter is that the Prime Minister has just arrived back from the Winter Olympics, which was diplomatically boycotted by the West. He arrived on the 6th or 7th of February. Now he's off to Russia on the 23rd. Isn't this how the West will, however, take this?
Yes, that's true. The impression will flow because he was in China on 4th February and he will actually be in Moscow on 23rd February. But as I mentioned at the outset of this discussion, that the Russia visit was planned many, many, many days before the China visit materialized. So it was planned. It was long in the planning. And yes, I mean, Western commentators are noticing the fact that Prime Minister of Pakistan will be in Moscow at a time when there are so much of tensions on Ukraine. Perhaps Ukraine might be invaded, as one of our one a very popular commentator, Michael Kugelman, has tweeted about it, about Prime Minister's visit. But all of these are perceptions. The reality is this: that Pakistan has a long-standing desire to develop a better relationship of trust with Russia. Pakistan has been working. This is not a government issue of Imran Khan's government. This is Pakistan's state policy, foreign policy, and foreign office's vision. And Pakistan has been working on it for more than 10 years now.
How do you see the media portraying this, whether it's the Pakistani or the Western or even Indian media?
There are three sets of media. Of course, the Indian media will find as much as it could. Any statement which the Prime Minister makes, any question answers which he responds to a Russian journalist, the Indian media will like to pick up. And India has very good relationship with Russia. India has very good relationship with America. They are masters of this balancing act. And they will like as much negativity to come out between Pakistan and Russia or Pakistan and United States. So the Pakistani Prime Minister...
It's interesting that you mentioned this because I've noticed myself the past 2-3 weeks, ever since this news came out that the Prime Minister may visit Russia, that the Indian newspapers are all busy telling us why the Prime Minister shouldn't be visiting, the Pakistani Prime Minister shouldn't be visiting Russia at this point.
Yes, of course, the Indians have to do it because they have a strategic relationship with Russia and a strategic relationship with the United States. And though their strategic relationship with Russia is slightly threatened because they have more eggs in the basket on the American side and they actually want to go on the American side, but they don't want to lose the Russian things. For them, the optics of Pakistani Prime Minister in Moscow, and especially if the President Putin visits Pakistan, will be extremely destabilizing. So Indians...
Do you see Putin actually coming to Pakistan? I mean, do you think India will allow that?
Yes. I mean, this is a very important question on my mind. And I think it's a question on everyone's mind in Pakistan's foreign office and ex-diplomats and strategic community. Because it's true that India now wants to be more of a strategic partner with the United States. But at the same time, India has displayed that skill and that capability that it has kept Moscow close to itself. The reason is this, that within India and within Moscow, within Delhi and within Moscow, there exists a strategic community. They're still alive, that is still working in some capacity, that have played a very important and crucial role in developing a close relationship of mutual interdependence between Russia and between India. And that is essentially, India is one of, I think Russia is still the largest supplier of the military hardware to India.
Under the BJP, that has really weakened.
No, that's not true. You know, from the briefings here in Islamabad, I heard there were very realistic appraisals of the fact that India is still an A category country and Pakistan for the greater part of the 70 years was a C category country from Moscow's point of view. So whereas in the past 10 years or 5 years, we have moved to be a category B country in terms of trust, we would like to be a category A country, but we are not seeing a relationship with Moscow as antagonistic to India. In fact, there is some opinion that given Moscow's very good relationship in New Delhi, Moscow is in a unique position to actually help the atmosphere and the optics between Islamabad and Delhi. But that's a long way. I mean, right now the point is this, that Pakistan has to establish an independent relationship with Russia, with Moscow, where India cannot veto President Putin's visit. And that's still a tall order. I mean, that's still... I mean, you can't really be firm about this because Indians, I'm sure they will do everything possible so that President Putin should not be able to visit Pakistan.
I think we're running short of time today, but I would love for us to do a series of discussions on the Russia-Ukraine issue itself as well.
I think it's a good idea. I think because there's so much more to basically explain about the fundamental problems with Russia and United States and what is happening between Russia and Ukraine and why this is so similar to the situation that cropped up in August of 2008 when Russia basically militarily gave a bloody nose to Georgia. The issue was the same on NATO expansion. And then also there's so much more to discuss between India, Pakistan and Russia. So I think I agree with you that we should do a series of discussions, and I also suggest that we should involve some of the key Russia experts in Islamabad, some of the key diplomats, and we should also sit with them to have this discussion.